Happy Friday the 13th, everyone. Because this is kind of like a second Christmas for me, let's just go ahead and rank every Jason Voorhees in the entire Friday the 13th franchise. All right, so some of the things I'll be considering when I rank the Jasons is the look of the character, how they kind of navigate the movie that they're in. Do they do anything unique? Is there really anything unique about the character? And, you know, maybe some bonus points for some cool ass kills too. And just a heads up too, I'll be leaving young Jason off this list from the original movie. Yeah, cool character, but he's only in the movie for just a second. I'm also gonna leave off Roy Burns from A New Beginning off this list as well. You know, this is just gonna be a Jason Voorhees ranking list, so I decided to leave Roy off the list, even though Roy is a fun character in the franchise, has some good kills, and also looks really damn cool, but will be left off the list. All right, so up first and in last place at number 10 is gonna be Jason from Jason Goes to Hell. Now, I hate to sound cliche having Jason from Jason Goes to Hell in last place on this list because it's one of those movies that a lot of people don't like very much. It's definitely a movie I would have towards the back half of the franchise ranked for me. But really, just thinking about the Jason, I have a hard time not ranking Jason from this movie last on the list for me. And of course, I'll mention a few reasons. Now, just to kind of kick things off with Jason Goes to Hell. So Jason, yes, it takes place kind of a few years after the whole craziness from everything that happened in Manhattan and in the sewers and all that shit. And that kind of seeps into like the look of the character and some things going on with the character. And there are some positives in this movie to Jason for me, without a doubt. I like the look of Jason, you know, when we get an actual like look of the normal Jason that we've come to love, especially in the earlier parts of the movie. Like, Jason looks pretty damn cool. Like, he's juicy, he's beaten up, he looks all weathered. Like, the mask is almost like, you know, like seeped into the skin on his body, you know, like you take off the mask and there's gonna be like a mark from the mask, and that just looks cool as hell. I also think just the mask in general looks good. We got Kane Hodder playing Jason. You know, he's played Jason several times in this franchise. He's playing him again in Jason Goes to Hell, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, but yeah, Kane, you know, when we do get to see Jason as Jason, you know, he plays him like kind of agile, but like, you know, he's not the biggest guy in the world, of course, but he's kind of like compact and stocky, and I like that version of Jason. It's a good time when we do see Jason in this movie, of course. But yeah, we still get some great kills from Jason's soul, or Jason, whatever you want to say. Like the Deborah tent kill. I mean, that is one of the best kills in the franchise, without a doubt. A holy shit moment. But probably the biggest reason why Jason from Jason Goes to Hell is last on the list for me is not because he looks terrible or anything like that. It's just because Jason in this movie, the Jason that I love, is essentially like a side character in his own movie. He also gets owned at the end of the movie by Steven and Jessica. And I know Jason gets beaten other points in the franchise, but seems a little weak to me at the end of this movie, definitely. But yeah, there you go. Jason from Jason Goes to Hell, last place at number 10. Okay, up next at number 9 is gonna be Jason from Jason Takes Manhattan. Do I even need to say Jason at the beginning of it? I'll just say the movie. How about that? We'll just say the movie. That works out. So yeah, Jason from Jason Takes Manhattan. And again, like, especially from here on in this list, I mean, every Jason in this franchise I do enjoy, and I like the look of them. But especially from here on forward, I like the look of every single one of these Jasons a lot. But yeah, we'll get into all of that. So, of course, like, Jason, at the beginning of this movie, was stuck at the bottom of Crystal Lake, you know, after everything that went down in New Blood. And this Jason is actually, even though it's number 9 on the list for me, is one of my favorite looks in the franchise for sure. A very unique look to Jason in a lot of ways. I mean, the yellowish mask is iconic. He's got like moss growing on him, and his skin just looks so moist and juicy and waterlogged. I mean, he's been at the bottom of the lake, and it looks like that. I mean, even just at points throughout the movie, like, he almost looks like he's dripping water constantly, which is great. I like that. It's almost like a little bit of like a xenomorph look to Jason. And just his look and the way Kane Hodder plays the character, just, you know, his stature and everything fits really well in this movie. Of course, there's going to be some angles where they try to make Kane look bigger. You know, the moment in Times Square, some other things like that. They shoot it kind of like how they shot Bane, you know what I mean, to make him look bigger. You also, in the second half of this movie, surprisingly, you see a lot of Jason, which is fun. Like, it makes his character better in this movie. It's enjoyable. Like I already mentioned, like that iconic, great shot of Jason at Times Square. Like, that is one of the most like well-known shots in this franchise, and definitely a cool moment. But I do always kind of chuckle in this movie how Jason seems like he's always out of breath. You know what I mean? Every time he stops, he's just like, and it's like, all right, Kane or Jason, whatever I want to call you, are you doing okay over there? But you know, there's also some pretty fun kills from Jason in Manhattan. The Julius kill especially is a funny one, you know, knocks his head off, it falls in the trash can. That's fun, that's a good time. But, you know, with this movie, having it number 9 on the list might seem terrible, but it's not. Like, this is not a bad incarnation of Jason. It has a lot of charm to me, like this movie does. But still, I do have to put Jason from Jason Takes Manhattan at number 9 for me. Okay, up next at number 8 is going to be Freddy versus Jason. And with this version of Jason, I kind of look at it in some ways as being a little bit similar to Jason in Part 3, but a little bit worse. It's kind of like a bigger, like lumbering version of Jason. I know a lot of people consider this like a very robotic version of Jason. I think that's a good way to put it. I view it as a very robotic version of Jason. Like, it doesn't seem like he has a lot of personality or a lot of character. And I know that's not something from Jason we're used to. This isn't Freddy, you know? But still, you know, in a lot of the movies, he's not like this smart craftsman, woodsman. You know, in the 2009 movie and some other versions, he is. And he is a little bit smarter and craftier and sets traps and whatnot. But in this movie, he is the complete opposite of that. He's essentially, like I said, Freddy's bitch in this movie, which is fun for the movie. But when I'm just thinking about Jason as a character, it's not that great, you know? Doesn't seem like somebody who'd be surviving in the woods. I also, in this movie, I do get, I think, I would say why they casted Ken Kirzinger instead of Kane Hodder. And I know, like, Kane, a lot of people assumed was going to be the guy to take over this role, especially after Jason Goes to Hell and then everything with Freddy's glove in that movie. But I think Ken was a good casting, because when you have Freddy and then you also put him next to a character or an actor like Kane Hodder, I think just the size of Kane would have been a little bit weird. I think choosing somebody who's just bigger, taller, more menacing was a great choice. Just having them in those shots together and just having, you know, a smaller, more calculated, manipulative villain compared to the bigger, just lumbering giant, you know, creature that Jason is in this movie. I also think the look of Jason in Freddy vs. Jason fits the movie very well. The mask is kind of darker. He just looks kind of like more ratty and darker and more like, I don't know, like more sinister in a little kind of ways. Like his clothes are just like torn up in this. His jacket almost looks like it's kind of like made of burlap or something, like a dude living in the woods would. And I like that look. I think it's a good look. And I think, like I said, just the look of Jason fits this movie. The crooked eyes like we used to seeing. But I will say with the mask, like, it is a cool mask, but I mean, when you look closely on like the weathering in the mask, it kind of just looks like somebody scribbled like pencil all over it to make it look weathered and stuff, which is, you know, that's a little weird, but not terrible. But still, Jason gives us some really damn good kills in this movie, definitely. The jock kill in the cornfield, one of my favorites in the franchise, makes me laugh my ass off every time I see it, when she's like, he twists his head around and then just boop, makes him fall over. It's great. I just think it's hilarious. Also, I have to mention Trey's kill towards the beginning of the movie. One of the best kills in the entire franchise, without a doubt. I mean, the biggest douchebag arguably in the movie gets killed in the best way, stabbed like 10 or so times and then folded in half backwards. It's great. Jason doing some work. It's a lot of cool kills in this movie. But yeah, I mean, Freddy does kind of whoop his ass at the end of the movie with the machete. But yeah, I mean, not the best Jason in the franchise. Obviously, I have it at number 8. So there you go. Freddy vs. Jason's version of Jason at number 8. Okay, and moving right along to number 7 is going to be Part 3. So Part 3, so Jason picks up right after the events of Part 2. He changes his clothes, changes his look up a little bit in this movie. And of course, like, Part 3 is when Jason gets his mask. We see Jason in Part 2, but he doesn't get the mask that we know and love from the character, that's so iconic from the character, until Part 3. And yeah, this look of Jason is like one of the cleanest, well, probably the cleanest look of Jason in the franchise. This is, of course, the mask is pretty much new, so the mask looks clean. It's not broken. It doesn't have the axe mark in it. Not bloody, nothing like that. Also, like, just Jason, like, underneath doesn't really look all that dirty. His clothes don't really look all that worn or that dirty. And for some people, they like it. Some people, they hate it. I actually think it has a lot of charm. Just the overall look of Jason in this movie. That's just the way I would put it, is charm. I mean, of course, this is one of the earliest entries in the franchise, so that gives it some charm. Without a doubt. Just right off the bat, I also think Richard Brooker as Jason does a good job. You know, I think his character is kind of a funny one to me, because there's moments where he looks really goofy and silly, but he's just kind of like lanky, but at the same time, like, has these like big ass traps and a big neck, which I'm sure is because of the prosthetic he was wearing, partly, definitely, but has like a funny look to him. He's lumbering, you know, like when he shoots the girl with the harpoon and then he just kind of lumbers away. It's pretty funny. I also think in this movie, when Jason runs, it's kind of scary. I can't lie. Like, it is. It's kind of scary. Also, like, the unmasked version of Jason in this movie is scary too. I like that. Even though it's a very early version of the character, like, they do a very good job of the unmasked version. It looks like something believable and kind of creepy. But Jason also gives us some fun kills in this movie, like the guy doing the handstand, splits him in half, of course, crushing Rick's head. That's great, right? You know, best effects ever in movie history. But that's a good time. But yeah, part 3 coming in at number 7, just because it has a lot of charm for me. All right, up next at number 6 is going to be The New Blood. So Tina awakens Jason with her telekinesis powers from his nice little water nap after the events in Jason Lives. So this is a crazy look for Jason, and just a crazy Jason in general. Man, there is a lot to talk about. I'll try to keep it short with Jason from The New Blood, but Kane Hodder back once again as Jason Voorhees. So again, you know, kind of stockier, compact, a little agile. I like that. Those are the words I think describe it the best for me. But this Jason comes in at number 6 for me, mainly because his look in this movie is just that damn good. It does not have a lot of great kills, and I get it. They were there. We could have maybe gotten to see them, but they were just censored so badly. I mean, if we had those kills in this movie, I mean, this Jason probably would be knocked up a bit on this list for me. But yeah, his look, I just think it's a great transition from the look from Jason Lives. You know, it's like the chain around his neck. I think that's a great little thing that they added to his look in this. And his skin is just like worn away from the water and just being down there. Who the hell knows? Maybe some little like piranhas or little fishies were chewing on him or something like that. But you know, you can see like his bones and stuff. His rib cage is showing a little bit. There's a chunk, you know, out of the mask. You can see some of his teeth. It's just great. I mean, this is 100% zombie Jason, especially when his mask gets blown off. Like, you're just like, holy shit. Yeah, this is it. Zombie Jason. And I'm here for it. It looks great. The effects team did a great job with the makeup on Kane Hodder, and it's just fun. Jason does some, I mean, there's some crazy stunt work at the end of this movie, which is impressive. You know, Jason's flying all over the place, falling through shit, getting lit on fire. It's wild. Like, Jason is doing some stuff in this movie, and definitely is like, I mean, the chain makes me think about this right away. It's like this unleashed killing machine on the loose. The chain broke, and shit is going down. And I like that. So there you go. Jason from The New Blood coming in at number 6. And moving right along into the top 5. Up next is going to be Jason X. So yeah, I mean, to me, we get 2 very solid looks to Jason in this movie, which is kind of a plus, like a little bit of variety, which is cool. I actually think the earlier version of Jason in this movie is a little bit underrated. I like it. It's a little bit of a different look for Jason. Like, the mask, you know, it doesn't have a lot of the chevrons and whatnot. It's kind of clean, but also worn at the same time. Very symmetrical, a little bit like chunky, but I don't know. I kind of like it. And then, of course, though, Uber Jason, he's just like yoked, massive, this killing machine with red eyes, big muscles. I like how, you know, a part of him is like a machine in metal, but you can still see kind of like the veins and blood vessels and stuff on top of the metal. I think that's a cool look. And yeah, again, Kane Hodder playing Jason again in this movie. So similar deal, like plays him well, short, compact, you know, agile at the same time, moving around, doing his thing, killing people, eating bullets towards the beginning of the movie, which is fun too. He's killing people at the beginning of the movie left and right at this Crystal Lake research facility. you know, just a hilarious, ridiculous movie. But the look of Jason and Jason in general fits this movie pretty damn well. And not only that, I mean, we get some solid kills in this movie, especially, I mean, the standout kill, of course, is Adrian's liquid nitrogen kill, which one of the best kills in the franchise. What a great kill. You know, it's like the look of her when he pulls her out, it's scary. Like, I love how she's screaming and it kind of crystallizes. And then he's like this killing machine in this, you know? He kills her in this crazy way and then just throws her to the side and moves along with his life, you know? You know, the fun little kills with the campers. He beats them to death in the sleeping bags. Like, that's a good time. But yeah, like, he is kind of robotic in this movie, like the, you know, Jason from Freddy vs. Jason, a smaller version, of course, but that fits this movie. So yeah, there you go. Jason from Jason X coming in at number 5. All right, and up next at number 4 is going to be Jason Lives. Home Depot Jason, right? With his work belt, all the shit going on with that. He's just ready to go. You know, he's prepared for anything in this movie, right? But yeah, this is the first version of this like zombie revenant Jason, you could say, in some kind of ways, in the franchise, right? This is the first version. Like, he officially gets killed in the final chapter, you know, and then Tommy, whoops, accidentally brings him back to life with lightning and stuff, which is fun, which is cool. I like that version of it. But yeah, CJ Graham as Jason in this movie, I think he does a good job. Like, we just see a ton of Jason in Jason Lives. Like, when I go back and rewatch this movie, I'm always surprised how much Jason is just all over this movie constantly. And I mean, the look of Jason, like CJ Graham playing this character, I think he does a great job. You know, he's a little like, his stature is kind of he's big, but it almost looks like he's out of shape in this movie. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's weird. But yeah, I think the look of Jason, though, is one of my favorites, just look-wise. You know, it's maggot head Jason, right? This is like, he's got kind of like the mask is like almost like a big saucer. It's like a big plate on his face. It's like it's an almost white version, like the lightest, I think the lightest version of the mask probably in the franchise, has that just lighter look to it. But yeah, Jason looks great in this. It's like his skin is rotten. It looks like somebody who had been decaying for a little while and was resurrected right at this time. You know what I mean? I think it's a great overall look, and it's a scary look for the character. Now with this movie, Jason doesn't give us the best kills in the franchise, but I would argue it's the most consistent kills in the franchise. Like, there are a ton of just very solid, fun kills from Jason in this movie, which is a good time. You know, like when Jason tosses the guy over his shoulder like he's nothing. Like, that's fun. My favorite Jason kill in the movie, though, would be Sheriff Garris's kill when he just folds him in half. Like, they're having a nice little fight together. Garris is beating him over the head with rocks and, you know, holding his own kind of for a moment. But, you know, an average man versus zombie Jason, shit's going to end really soon. And Jason just buckles him, which is great. Crunchy sound effects. I love that. Jason also using the fence post in this movie. The machete, that's a good time. Good weapons in this. And I also think just the ending with Jason and the way CJ Graham plays the character at the end is good, you know. Jason fighting off Megan and Tommy, you know, with the lake and the counselors and the kids and all that going on. It's a good time. So yeah, there you go. Number 4 is going to be Jason Lives. All right, moving into the top 3. Up next is going to be Jason from the 2009 reboot. So to me, this movie takes things back to the Jason that I personally like the most. It's just like this dirty, kind of deranged human who's been living off the land. And they take that to, you know, a further extent, definitely in this movie. And he's just slaughtering anyone that comes around his territory. You know, we get Derek Mears playing Jason in this movie, a bigger, more menacing character. This is 2009. So we got versions of the main antagonist in, you know, obviously Leatherface was bigger and more menacing during this era. Jason, of course, Michael Myers was too. And I like it. I'm a fan of those versions. And Derek Mears does a great job as Jason in this. Playing this guy who lives off the land is very like, he sets traps, he's calculated, he's like a expert woodsman who can like shoot arrows pretty damn perfectly, you know, axe throwing on point, everything like that. And I think that's just fun. I know some of it is maybe a little silly and ridiculous, but I have a really good time with it. Just this massive version of Jason who's fast and just knows what he's doing around the woods. I like the way Jason looks in this movie. His jacket's kind of like torn up. It's like looks like a hiking jacket that's just kind of torn up, maybe something he found or something he's just been using over the years, which is great. I also think the mask has some of the best weathering to me in the entire franchise. Like, and Jason's look also behind the mask kind of looks like he has like alopecia or something. His mouth is all twisted and weird. His eyes are off, and he just looks nasty and scary and weird looking. If you pulled off the mask when he's coming at you, or if you came upon him with no mask, you'd shit your pants. And early in the movie, we also get a modern version of Sackhead Jason. I'll talk more in a minute why I love that look so much, but I think that variety makes Jason even more badass in this movie. And really just putting those earlier versions of Jason in like a melting pot and mixing them together and coming up with this version of Jason, taking some of the best aspects of that character is fun. And I think they did a good job of it. There's also some great kills in the 2009 reboot to me that I really enjoy. I mean, yeah, in the cold open, the sleeping bag kill where the girl's getting burnt alive, that's brutal. Some people consider that their favorite in the movie. It's very, just sinister. And the machete kill in that cold open to Richie's face, that's a great one. Really enjoy that. The arrow kill, that's funny. It's hilarious to me. And Trent's kill, biggest douche in the movie, right? Gets, killed pretty brutally. I wouldn't say the best kill in the movie, but still fun nonetheless. But to me, really, I just think, this is a great modernization of the Jason character. And that's why it cracks the top 3 for me. Okay, moving into the top 2, up next is going to be the Jason from Part 2. So in Part 2, one thing that's kind of interesting to me about Jason in this is when I think about it, like there's still this mystery about Jason in this movie, which is great. And they do a good job of showing that in the movie. They keep his character kind of in the shadows. They only show him, especially in the early stage of the movie, of course, like for a second, like that moment, that shot when he's kind of crossing over the road and the cop finds him and follows him. There's still this mystery about the character, what he looks like. You just get that quick glimpse, which is great. I love that. And yeah, this is Hillbilly Jason. Yeah, it's kind of hillbilly in the 2009 movie too, but it truly is, definitely. And this is, of course, the first adult version of Jason we get in the franchise, right? It doesn't make sense. I know that Jason came back. Like, Jason was supposed to be a kid that died in the lake. Tom Savini definitely agrees, and that's why he didn't work on this movie. But still, regardless, it's great. This movie also, and Jason's look has still kind of this like late 70s aesthetic to it. I know the movie's from the early 80s, but still that kind of rollover from the late 70s, early 80s, which is great. And that bleeds into Jason's character. Definitely, it's just got grit, And in this movie, we get a great shot of Jason. One of my favorite shots in the entire franchise as Ginny is back at the end of the movie in Jason's shack. She's discovered, what the hell is this place? Somebody's been living in here? What is going on here? And behind her through the window, you can see Jason from the distance running towards her. And the shot like lingers right there. And it's a scary ass shot. What I like especially about this version of Jason though is it just feels so real. He feels so real. He feels like the most human Jason in the franchise to me. Very vulnerable at times, which, is almost like Ghostface in the Scream franchise. Like, it's a believable thing. Like, the Jason in this feels very believable. Like somebody who's just living in the woods, who's just kind of deranged and kind of messed up in the head or has had some serious trauma and is a bit unhinged, you know what I mean? And is gonna kill some people, right? And yeah, the look of Jason in this movie too is great. I love Sackhead Jason. I think it's awesome. In the sack head, the burlap sack is one of those things, like, it feels like something somebody would do who's maybe not the smartest person in the world, who's living off in the woods, just found this sack and is like, all right, I just need anything to cover up my face with this and a rope. I love that. He's got this like dirty plaid shirt on, the overalls adding to the hillbilly look, the dirty ass hands, his fingernails are bruised. We get kind of that Michael Myers POV shot of him trying to kill the girl with the knife. You can see the bruised fingernails. Love that little, like, just that little extra added on there. And then at the end, when we see Jason with no sack on his head, he's almost got like a full head of hair, but it's kind of patchy a little bit. The face is terrifying. I think they did a good job with that too. And also, Jason gives us some fun kills in this movie. Not the best kills in the entire franchise, but I think they're good. I just think they're pretty shocking. They're good jump scares and fun. Definitely, of course, Mark's kill, getting the machete in the face. An iconic moment in the franchise that Jason gives us. Yeah, and Jason from Part 2 to me is just a great version that I love in the franchise. All right, and at number 1 as my favorite Jason Voorhees in the entire Friday the 13th franchise is Jason from Part 4, the final chapter. And right away, you know, with Jason in this movie, it's like, is this the first version of undead Jason, or was Jason not actually dead after the events of Part 3? But yeah, I love how it kicks off right after Part 3. You know, Jason, they think he's dead. I guess he's not dead. But let me know down in the comments what you think about that. Was he dead? Was he not dead? What do you guys think? But I love how in this movie, they kind of go back to the Jason in Part 2 in some ways. The Jason in Part 3 is like a little cleaner, less gritty, less worn. Of course, the mask is not. But in this movie, they go back to like this dirty Jason. Long fingernails, feels like he's been living in the woods, dirty hands, like they've been working out there in the woods for years. Of course, in this movie, we get that great close-up look, you know, right after the shower moment of how Jason looks. Almost looks like he has like cataracts in one eye, the great worn mask, you know, of course, with the mark in it, with the blood, it's all broken and worn. And yeah, he just looks great. And yeah, Ted White plays Jason in this movie. And if you listen to interviews of Ted White and just how Ted's personality is, I feel like Ted's personality bleeds into the Jason character in this movie, which is great. Ted seems like a no-nonsense, old school kind of guy. And I just feel like that comes across at times with the character. And yeah, at the end of the movie, we get Jason unmasked. Tom Savini back working on Jason, combining some aspects of the Jason from the original movie and some other things, and it looks great. Very scary. You know, he's got the slit in his head, he's got the messed up teeth, his face is all like, almost like wrinkly and kind of moist and weird, like just scary looking. One of the best unmasked versions of Jason. And Jason just in general, I like how Jason can run a little bit in this movie, can move around, makes his character like kind of unique, especially compared to other icons in the genre like Michael Myers and stuff. I like when there's a little difference there with the character. And yeah, in the final chapter too, Jason gives us great kills. The Axel kill with the bone saw, the head snap, love that. One of my favorite in the franchise. Doug's head crunch in the shower, crunchy sound effects, a great kill, really fun. Ted White just getting in there, doing his thing. Love that. The kill in the raft, we get that. Throws the twin out the window. Jimmy, of course, getting the corkscrew and then the cleaver in the face. Solid kills in this movie from Jason, which are really, really fun. And then the big moment, of course, Jason, you know, probably getting killed once and for all. I guess you could say that's the time that Jason does get killed in the franchise by Tommy Jarvis. But that whole scene at the end with Jason and how Ted White plays the character is great. Very well done. You know, the animatronics, when his head is sliding down the machete, it's twitching. It's just a great moment, a memorable moment that I never forget in this franchise. And the way Ted White plays the character in Part 4 is just great. I love how Part 4's Jason still feels human and still gritty, but is like a little bit bigger and stronger than in Part 2. And the mask looks great. The clothes look great. Yeah, just love Jason from Part 4. But there you go, everybody. That is how I rank every Jason Voorhees in the entire Friday the 13th franchise. By the way, again, happy Friday the 13th, everybody. It's basically a holiday over here for me. But thanks for watching. If you want some more content from me right now, go ahead and check out one of these videos next to me. If you don't want to miss future content on the channel, then the best way to do that is to subscribe. My name is Matt. Thanks again for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.